Today is May 4th, 2020. It's been about 2 months since the COVID-19 pandemic started gaining traction for the states to react, and then a little bit later for the federal government to start issuing guidelines and reacting as well. When it first came out in early March, I wanted to model it myself just to verify for my own reasons that the situation was real and just how severe it was. And I was stunned at the analysis of that, just the lethality of the COVID-19 relative to what is called a seasonal flu. Just as a quick note, the seasonal flu last year, the 2019 seasonal flu, infected 39 million people, and 39,000 people with the seasonal flu perished. That's a 1% or 1 in 1,000 people dying from that. Currently, today, May 4th, the current figures in the U.S. are about 1.2 million people infected, and just under 70,000 have perished. That's almost double the amount for last year's seasonal flu, and our fatality rate is 1 in 15, maybe 1 in 17 on better days, versus 1 in 1,000. We're down to 1 in 17. There's some outliers through the world that are better and worse. Spain, as of today, is about 1 in 10 people die who contract the COVID-19. And the UK, it's 1 in 7. Italy, we heard so much news early on from them. They're about 1 in 8 at this point. Germany's a good outlier, to say good. 1 in 24 perish who contract COVID-19. That's an unbelievable rate still, and that's a good number. Coincidentally, here in California, we're the same. We're about 1 in 24, 1 in 25 who contract the virus die. New York, they've had so many people, several hundred thousand now contracted. Their death rate is about the same, 1 in 16, as the rest of the world. It's very serious. It is highly likely that it's touching everybody here. When I looked at it, I realized I needed to take steps. One of those steps was to create a mask. And when you look at defending ourselves against this, the first was shelter in place, which is to help defend. These defenses are all layered. The second is to have social distancing. There's a reason for the 6 feet. The third is to wear gloves, and then you have a mask. So all these layers work together to help protect our loved ones against this, our community against this. It's not just ourselves against it, it's everybody that it can spread into so rapidly and with such devastating consequences. So when I went down the path of making a mask, I thought it'd be pretty straightforward, but it turned out to be filled with more problems trying to get materials, other issues, and even if they're effective or not. So this is a little bit of the exploration of what I went through to accomplish that. And so initially I was using a Kimberly-Clark mask. This is the yellow, what they call a surgical mask. And this is a Kimberly-Clark official mask, and right away it ripped. It's not that comfortable. You keep fidgeting with it. About a week ago, we were fortunate to get some of the other blue style surgical masks. There's no manufacturer on this. These came through Groupon. Didn't take too long, just a couple of days actually. This one came broken. This is what's advertised as a KN95 filter, and it has nothing to do with an N95 filter that is used by the doctors and surgeons and the frontline people. There's filled with perforations in it. The straps are wrong. There's no solid mounting with it. A mask is more than just the filter paper the filter material that's used for it. I also got these, what are called a PM2.5 from Amazon, and these are an insert that can be used in other filters, not the filter itself. And this one's actually although it works, it's a counterfeit as well. These are supposed to have a carbon material inside it, be 4 or 5 layers. This is 3 layers, and there's no carbon filter in it. So the world is rife right now with issues. So when you make a mask, I have a simple way to evaluate how effective it's going to be, and we'll play with that in a moment. So I will readjust the camera. So when I started this, I went down a path of looking for understanding how big the virus is, what a micron is relative to other sizes, and how viruses spread and all those things. And I was going to initially do a couple videos with that, but then you realize there's more and more issues as you start really getting into it to technically look at what's going on. And I decided upon just doing a seat of the pants evaluation that everybody can do, and it makes sense. So this is a potato starch, and a potato starch has a particle size of about 5 microns to 40 microns. The COVID-19 virus is at 0.3 microns. So these official filter materials that say it's a NIOSH N95 material, these are designed to filter particles that are that size, 0.3 microns at a very high efficiency of 95%. And this is an official material that I did get, and I can use as an added layer inside the filters that I make. So what I do is the particle size of the starch here, the potato starch, is the same particle size that we comes out of our body from our respiratory system when we are coughing or sneezing, sometimes just exhale, laughing, talking to people that way. And this is the size that the coronavirus will be inside of these vehicles that come out of our body when we just are, breathing normally or coughing. And this is what all the filters should be able to not allow to get through. So I'm using a simple test with the vacuum. I have a black cloth over the tube here, and we'll be attaching a material, a filter, the entire filter over it, and then basically sucking up the particles and see how much is left on it. And that will give us a really good indication of how good the material is. So this is the normal surgical mask that we got. So there you can see it's been well covered, and this is an extreme test. They're not going to be tested this way necessarily. And when we let that drop off, we get effectively nothing through. There's one or two very small particles there, which may be hard to pick up here. But there's nothing basically gets through with that. Now, when I did it on common materials being used by people, so this is called a fabric square, and I got this at Walmart around Christmas. When I went in there a month ago to try to get materials to help with the mask, Walmart's devastated in their craft area. There's no fabric squares, there's no thread, there's no scissors. So people are buying cloths like this to use for masks, and we'll test this. And these materials came from another local sewing company here, and they are providing these to make with instructions to use this material to make for masks, and actually return the mask to them, and they'll distribute those to people who need masks. And when we run this same test, you can see how much is left, and it's not only left, I'm not sure if the camera's going to see it, but it's actually elevated through it. So a vast amount of material was getting through this. So I'll go ahead and get that out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and change this off and test with a couple more. Need to clean my hands, get another piece of the fabric. And what I'll be showing next is a cloth filter that I developed, and this really is about doing your due diligence when you're saying we're going to make a mask. It's a safety device. I want to get it to the loved ones around me and friends and family and neighbors. And it's important to understand if it's going to work or not, if you're doing them a favor or not, or should they look for other alternatives. And so I'll do the same test with the mask that I started using. I modified an online one, and this is actually 4 layers. And in the inside layers are using a MERV 16 rated material here, which is very sturdy, and that material goes across, lines the entire inside, and a second layer lines a pocket. The pocket you can insert additional filters like this if you need to, but even straight up, a homemade filter so that is perfectly effective for this type of material. So that's basically the idea behind the filters, are to prevent the materials coming out, but additionally they have to protect you if you are coughing. And that's why with the multi-layer fabric, I can cough and exhale into this. It's going to protect me with a layer. I can inhale. It's going to protect me with a layer. The mask fits tightly. It actually has metal supports on all sides, chin support for it. So making a mask that works is critical. Making a mask that is sustainable. This can be washed and cleaned. It can be put into a sanitized cycle or simply put into a pot of water over 140 degrees, where the CDC says will actually kill the virus for a few minutes. So you can use it and reuse it and not have to struggle with masks that rip, tear, and break, and you actually have a very effective way to approach it. So today's world has changed, and these are things to understand in today's world, with just how devastating this virus can be to a family that has members contracting it, and to society as a whole, where we've seen all the changes with it. So from my point of view, it's our responsibility to protect those around us and be responsible socially for our communities.